Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a quick review along with some swatches and potential dupes for the shadows in the Melt Cosmetics shadow stacks. I have both the Dark Matter and the Lovesick Stack, so let's get right into it. I am sure, like a lot of you, saw these stacks in people's favorites videos last month, and I mean, Valentine's Day was upon us. Girl's got to get something for herself, so I bit the bullet and I bought them. These retail for $48 a stack at 4 shadows included in each. That is steep. It comes out to $12 a shadow. But before you close out of this video because you're just not willing to pay that, something I want to point out is that these are huge shadows. So to give you a size comparison and give you a sneak peek about the dupes I'm going to talk about, here's a size comparison. This is Makeup Geek's Cosmopolitan, and this is one of the Melt Cosmetics eyeshadows. They are about 3 times the size, and so when you do the math, they're actually about the same price per weight. So right off the bat, I would say that if you're the kind of person that finds their favorite few shadows that they go to every day, these are still something you're going to want to look at, even though the price seems a little steep, because in reality, yes, you are paying a lot for just 4 shadows, but you're getting a lot more per shadow than you would for any other brand. The next thing I want to talk about is packaging, because it is so unique, and I gotta be honest, even though I rarely focus on the packaging, I talk mostly about how useful the product is, whether it's practical. I was a royal sucker for this packaging. I wanted to get these in part just to see what the packaging was like. So as you can see, these are magnetized so that they stick together in a nice clean stack. In the top here, you have a mirror, and then you can see the shadows here are housed in what kind of look like washers. They're pretty strongly magnetized, so if you were to throw them in a purse, I personally did try this. I threw it in my purse to take it around for the day, and it wasn't like the most rigorous test for a product you could do, so I'm not sure how it would handle longer distances or more rough care, but it stayed intact when it was just thrown around for everyday, carrying it around for everyday purposes. I was excited to see if there was any sort of functionality with the stack that I didn't have with the palette, and unfortunately, this is one downside I think to the packaging as well. They do stack nice and neatly. It makes it nice and compact wherever it is you're storing them. I find I prefer the palette format when it comes to ease of application in general, whether it's on the go. Now, if you sit at a vanity every day to do your makeup and you don't anticipate needing to do it elsewhere on the go, this isn't gonna make a difference. It's nice and compact. It's awesome packaging. But for me, I don't actually do my makeup when I'm doing it in front of the camera. I don't have a desk in front of me. I hold everything. So I really appreciate a palette that has a mirror that stands up. So for me, this was a giant hassle to have to, first of all, deal with this tiny little mirror and then juggle each of these, trying to like have brushes and then the mirror. It's a little bit harder to juggle. So it's not more convenient if you're used to doing your makeup on the go and need to do your makeup on the go. But for the average everyday makeup user who might not need to worry about that, this is great. Now on to the individual stacks and the shadows and colors that come in each. The first one I'm going to start with is the Dark Matter stack, because I feel like this is going to be everyone's comfort zone. It's probably the one that most people are curious about. The 4 shadows that are in this stack are completely matte, and I'm really happy to say that each one of them lived up to what I was expecting from what I had heard from other people here on YouTube. They are intensely pigmented, very, very smooth and creamy. I would say they lean on the drier side, whereas Makeup Geeks tends to have a little bit more, just as a means of comparison, because most of the comparison shades that I have here are from Makeup Geek, and I think a lot of people have experience with those, so it's a good means of comparison. They're a tad bit drier, not in a bad way, just in a noticeable way. They aren't chalky in the least. They're very easy to apply and blend into one another and play well with other shadows from other brands, of course. So overall, I'm really happy with the quality of these shadows. The first one is Blur, and this is a soft matte cream color or brown. I found it was most similar to Makeup Geek's Creme Brulee. You can see, or maybe you can't, the contrast might not be enough, but Makeup Geek's is a hair deeper, but for the most part they are very, very similar. Next up is Unseen. This is a slightly deeper matte brown that leans more cool, and I found this was closest to Makeup Geek's Frappe. The primary difference being that Frappe is a tad bit warmer. Next up is my absolute favorite shadow in this stack. It is Enigma, and they describe this as a rusted red brown. I'd say it's pretty true to the color. It's very similar to Makeup Geek's Bitten, but I would say that Bitten is more of a wine. It has a little bit more purple in it, so they aren't exact dupes. And the last shade comes in at a close second to Enigma. It is the shade Dark Matter, and it is a super opaque matte black. And it's easily the deepest and most matte black I have ever used. The second closest was actually a Makeup Geek shadow. It was Corrupt. The difference is though, and you can really tell when you put them side by side, is that Corrupt does have a hint of shimmer in it. It's not completely matte, whereas Corrupt absolutely is. This has just a tiny hint of almost blackened blue shimmer, and so I'll show you a close-up here just so you can see. They're very, very close, but if you are a fanatic when it comes to having an absolutely matte shadow, this is what you need. Next up is the Lovesick Stack, and honestly the one I was more excited to try. This on the outside might look like it caters to a smaller audience because the colors are significantly brighter and they're just more diverse. But it's really the diversity that made me as excited as I was to try it, because I never would have thought to put these colors together. So let's start with the first shadow. It is Amelie, and it is this peachy gold. It is most similar to Makeup Geek's Cosmopolitan, although the two I wouldn't say are dupes in the least. Cosmopolitan is much pinker, or even more coppery I would say, and more shimmery. Amelie has more of a gold iridescence. I find it's beautiful for layering over shadows actually. That's what I did today. I'll talk about my color combinations later after this, but what I found so interesting about Amelie is that even though you can absolutely tell that there is both orangey peach and gold in here, you can layer it over deeper shadows to give this beautiful gold iridescence, whereas Cosmopolitan would be a little more opaque. Next up is Promiscuous. It's a violet blue, and what they actually recommend using over darker shades because it's meant to transform and kind of pull either blue or violet depending on how you wear it. This I found really, really hard to find a dupe for. It's a very unique shade, very pigmented shade. The closest I could come up with was an Anastasia eyeshadow in the shade Iridescent Purple. I would say this leans more purple though, doesn't contain the duochromatic qualities that the Melt shadow does, and the Anastasia shadows are expensive for their size. Remember, again, these are 3 times the size of the typical eyeshadow pan. The next shadow is another one that I was really excited about, even though it's so simple. It's a matte, it's kind of a medium matte gray that leans a little blue. Like I said, it's almost boring, except for the fact that I've never seen a shadow this shade. So I was really excited to try this one. The closest one I could find had a shimmery finish. Maybe that's why I was so excited, is all the other shadows that I've seen are very shimmery. Perhaps it's a hard shadow to get right, not sure. But the one I found closest was, once again, from Makeup Geek. It's the shade Ocean Breeze, but as you can see, the finishes are very, very different. And for Fixated being a matte shadow, it blends so beautifully. I'm actually wearing this all over my lid, and then I chose to put Amelie, that gold peachy duochrome shimmer, over top, and it really makes it almost looks like an antique gold, but instead of the base being green, it's this beautiful smoky gray shade. So I really love that color combination, and it's what I'm wearing right now. And now onto the last shadow from the stack. It is Lovesick, which is this deep matte burgundy shade. Once again, this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but for what it is, a deep matte red shadow, it applies beautifully. I couldn't find a comparison of this shade in any other shadows that I own, but one thing that I was kind of nervous about is that it would duplicate Enigma from the Dark Matter stack, and while the two are very similar, Enigma is more of a brown, whereas this is more of a true burgundy red. So those are all of the shadows in each of the stacks, along with what dupes I could find. Overall, I really recommend them. I think they are of fantastic quality. Like I said, the price per stack is a little steep, but considering how much product you get, it's actually really reasonable. I really recommend these stacks. I think it just comes down to finding the shadows that you're gonna get the most use out of. That's it. Those are my thoughts on these shadows. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. No, it's not playtime, it's film time. Can you see the nose? Can you see the nose? You can see his little nose.